Alright, so the Dual Triangle event has been officially announced, and if you weren't here for the last one, basically how this event works is this is like a team battle system where you choose either to play in your fusion group, the synchro group, or the link group. Don't worry, you can change groups, like you can play in all three of these. In fact, if you want to get all the rewards, like all the titles, I think you should play in all three of these based on like missions and stuff like that. And while you're in the group, you can only use extra monsters from the corresponding group. For example, if you were in fusion, if you were playing the fusion group, you could only use fusion monsters. And same with synchro and same with link. And the matchmaking system is where you will face only people from the other two groups. You won't face people from your own group. So when you're deck building, keep in mind you're not prepping, like if you're playing tier, for example, you're not going to be prepping for tier mirrors properly. You want to prep for synchro matchups and link matchups. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And then we got the gem rewards and stuff like that. We got the TTT sleeves, pretty nice. So yeah, let's get on to the decks. And I'm starting with the synchro group because we have to get this out of the way first. This is the elephant in the room. Okay, so Tenpai is, of course, they're gonna make Tenpai legal for this event. Like come on, guys. So, that deck has like how many URs in it, and of course they're gonna have to make this playable for the first event that the first event that's released since the new pack came out. And they did hit Tenpai a little bit. They hit Sangan summoning to 1, which is good. Honestly, probably should have released that way in the normal game as well, but that's neither here nor there. And they limited Sangan Kaiman, which is actually kind of a big deal because this is like oh, sorry, still got a bit of a cough. This is like the best extender and so on. So yeah, you only have to deal with one Sangan summoning now, and you only have to worry about the one Sangan Kaiman, which means most likely, unless you get sacked, you're gonna have to depend on them hard searching it with Hydra. So it's like more easier to lock down like what choke points hit. It's still not great. Like, this is still a deck that has, you see all the non-engine here, right? So still gonna be annoying to face. Now they also did ban Max C and Shifter, which is good because if there's one thing this deck doesn't need, it's even more turn skips, right? So forget about that. And yeah, basically, if you're playing a fusion deck and you're playing a link deck, it's like almost a requirement to be able to have a game plan against Tenpai. Okay, so we will get into those other decks from the other groups later. But first, this Tenpai deck list. It's pretty, honestly, this is really standard. Like, I think the main deck ratios are like pretty set in stone. You got 3 Hydra, 3 Chandra, 2 Genroku, 1 or 2 Fadra, probably 2 Fadra in this event, because even though you aren't going to play in mirror matches, so that's actually one thing to notice, that while you're playing in the synchro group, aka you're also playing Tenpai yourself, you're not going to play any Tenpai mirror matches, and you're not going to play against Tenpai as long as you're playing a synchro deck. So there might be a disproportionate amount of people playing a synchro deck just to avoid the fucking Tenpai matchup, which, understandable, but that's like kind of a buff to this deck, because honestly the worst Tenpai matchup is itself, because the mirror match is like a completely 50-50 coin flip, just sacky, like it's literally just a sacky game all around, most likely. But you won't have to play that because of the way this event works. So yeah, where's that? Yeah, 2 Fadra and 3 Dora. I don't think you need 3 Dora, but to make up for the lost copies of Sangan Summoning and the lost copies of Hyman, it's a bit more consistency. You still have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 13-ish starters. I guess you have 14 starters, because Magnum Bud is a starter because you're always going second, and this is always going to get you search you engine if you don't already have it. So you have like 14-ish starters going second, and then the rest is just whatever the hell non-engine you have, like Valor, Ash, Inperm, Storm, and Duster. Note that Bystials, I think they're really good against the fusion matchups, which you're going to be playing a lot against. But because if you do run Bystials, then it makes Lightning Storm not as good, because Lightning Storm plus Bystial is not a good combo. So that's why we have like Heavy and Heartbeat Duster instead as the board breakers. And then the rest of the hand trap is like, I don't know what other hand traps would be even great to run, because there's Ogre, but like Ogre, the main reason you'd run Ogre is for the Tenpai matchup honestly itself. And honestly, this card is pretty terrible against a lot of fusion decks like Tier and Branded. So you might not even want to run 3 of this. But you already are running 4 Bystials, and if you really want to, like punish the fusion matchup, you can even up the Bystial count. But I think, this is okay versus Link decks, and Nibiru. Obviously, Nibiru is terrible versus most fusion decks, but it's pretty decent against Link decks, so it's like a give or take right there. You can play around with the non-engine. You have like a lot of options, obviously, and then the extra deck. Most of this, half this stuff doesn't matter because, I mean, as long as you have the Biden Blast and the Transcendent Dragon and the Trident Dragon, and Meteor Burst plus Samurai Destroyer, that's probably fine. And then the rest is just whatever. Well, yeah, Black Rose too. Moonlight Rose, don't need to craft it if you don't own it. It's not a staple in normal Tenpai. It's not needed here. Cyber's Quantum Dragon. This is your out the Boral End Dragon. Yeah, I think that's all this is there for, but it's out to those random annoying towers-like monsters. Q-Belt comes up more in shifter lines, but it's still just like it is removal, so it's fine. And then, you know, Ruddy Rose. You ever Ruddy Rose your fusion opponent or your tier opponent with like 20 cards in the grave? Yeah. And then you just have more level 10 things. You probably don't go into any of these except maybe Baron, but I mean, what else are you gonna run, right? There's no links. So yeah, this is Tenpai. Yeah, you're gonna get used to playing against this. Even if you aren't playing against this on ladder, but you are gonna play Link decks or Sync or Fusion based decks, get ready to play a lot against this deck. Alright, the next most popular Synchro deck besides Tenpai, I think, is gonna be Centur-Ion, and honestly, probably one of the bigger advantages of playing Centur-Ion is that you won't have to play against Tenpai since you're a Synchro deck. So yeah, then we just adjusted the the non-engine accordingly, because that's what mainly matters about the Centur-Ion deck. The main engine is pretty standard. Now they did limit Emblem of Oath because they did realize that this deck was probably gonna be really popular. So they did a consistency hit. So to make up for the Oath, we're running 2 Bonfire, which is it's kind of a pseudo replacement for Oath. It gets you a starter. Now it's not as good as Oath, obviously, because it doesn't help extend through hand traps as well as Oath does, but it is the same consistency. And we are adding an Agnimo Candle just for an additional level 4 tuner, because since we're running 2 Bonfires anyways, like you could run the Search Target. You don't have to run this, but I think it's cool just having. Because we don't have the new Centur-Ion support, oftentimes your limiting factor in you being able to extend your plays is the lack of a second tuner, because since the only tuner you have access to during your turn is a single Primera, if you use this effect, and you can't even special summon it again, so you only have 1 singular tuner per turn. But having Agnimo Candle gives you more access to more synchro extension, and so on and so forth. Also, with the second level 4 tuner, you can make double Blazar. Like, you can make a Blazar on your turn, because with the second tuner, you can make a second level 12 synchro if you have enough extenders to make a Blazar on your turn, and then obviously on your opponent's turn, you can just go into the Crimson Dragon again and then make a second Blazar, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that probably won't happen too much, but it's a possibility just to keep in mind. And yeah, 3 Primera, 3 Shudea, 3 Stand Up, 1 Oath, 1 Bonds. I think this is better than Wake Up. You can run Wake Up as well, but I think you need to run Bonds before Wake Up. I think this card's a bit better. And then 1 Phalanx. You can run the Counter Trap if you want, I guess. I mean, it's not like you're really like cramped for space in this deck or anything. Like there's a lot of cards that honestly you don't have to run in here in terms of like non-engine wise. So like Valor, Ash, and Infirm in a world of Maxius Span, I think these are the best. And then we're running Bystials. As Bystials have natural synergy with Centur-Ion, as you know, and Bystials are really good against the fusion decks, which we'll again you'll see why the Bystials are good against fusion decks if you just see what most likely the popular decks are going to be. But yeah, that's why we have Bystials, and then you have 3 Nibiru, which is honestly, Nibiru is really trash against the fusion decks, not gonna lie, but your matchup against the fusion deck should be already so good anyways, just because you have all of this non-engine that destroys them, like Imperm and Valor on like versus tier against the kit in this format, where with the tier hits, which I mean, spoilers, one of the fusion decks is going to be tier, so Yeah, these are very good, and then obviously you have Bystials, which are good against Tier and Branded, and so forth, and then additionally you have Ash, which is also very good against Branded, so your matchup against Fusion Deck should already be good enough, and the Nibiru is what you use against the Link decks. And Nibiru is just, by itself, it has value against some Link decks, which is not the case against, you know, a lot of Fusion decks and so on. But even if Nibiru doesn't end a Link deck's turn by itself, Nibiru paired with another Fan Trap will. Any of these will Nibiru plus any of these will usually do the trick anyways. And if you're playing against a Fusion deck, you know, it's simple. Just pitch this for stand up, easy. Now I will say, like, I'm still running Call By. Maybe you don't have to run Call By, but I think Call By is actually decent as a non-engine versus Fusion decks as well, because it's basically like a pseudo Bystial. Although again, you can replace this with other tech options too. It's not like we have Maxi or Shifter to worry about or anything. Like, there's no really real hand trap you care about that much. And the one MF and one Gargoyle, usually I wouldn't run MF, but I mean, we have the space now with like all the hits, so. And yeah, there's one thing I will say, not having Link monsters does make the Bystial engine a little bit weaker, because usually when you had open one card combo plus the Bystial, you could link off the additional Bystial plus Gargoyle into an IP. That way you get the Magnabud engraved to be revived off regain, and you get an additional disruption. Obviously you can't do that, so it's something you can't really do very much with the Bystial that you summon a lot of the time, unless you have Bonfire into Agnimo Candle. Then you can make another Synchro on top of it, so that would replicate the lack of an IP. But if you don't have access to Agnimo Candle, then sometimes your Bystial would just be chilling on the field, not doing anything, which is, it's still worth it to play because you get a draw off the regain and stuff like that, and you get the search off Magnabud. But I mean, it's sometimes it feels a little lacking when you don't have access to links. But overall, this deck is still fine. Like, out of all the playable decks, this is one deck that got hit the least. So yeah, and then the extra deck, besides the Blazars, you know, standard stuff like the Blazars, the Centur-Ion Synchros, the Crimson Dragon, and the Baron, everything else is just tech options, tech level 10s, tech level 10 and level 8 synchros. So Chaos Angel, Dissipator. Keep in mind, Dissipator, you can banish your Centur-Ion synchros and then Dissipator them back, because Dissipator can summon back any level, so that's neat. And their effects trigger because they trigger off special summon. Ruddy Rose, again, this card is just really funny if you get it off. Packbit, Crimson Drag, Crimson Blader. Man, if you get Resolve Crimson Blader against the Fusion deck, that is cruel. You're basically flanking them for their turn. You're like deburying them for their next turn. And then Chaos Archfiend, this is like a 4500 attack Borderland that banishes monster it kills, so that's pretty neat. So yeah, Centur-Ion. This is also probably going to be the second most played deck besides the second most played Synchro deck besides Tenpai. Okay, now this one's a bit wacky. So, first of all, I take no credit for the idea behind this. I am nowhere near this creative. I'm basically basing this off of a previous Adventure Synchron Super Heavy Samurai lists that topped previous Duelist Cups. And, yeah, those... Now, the thing is, those decks had access to Grass. And obviously, Grass is a huge buff to this deck. If you had Grass, you would probably run 3 Snow as well. And it'd be a lot better, but we're working with what we have here, so yeah, Grass is banned, I think, right? I just assume Grass is, yeah, okay, Grass is banned, okay, forget about that. But yeah, the idea is, you know, the Super Heavy Samurai, this is the one Super Heavy Samurai build that does not use the Link one, that does not use Scarecrow, because obviously you can't use Scarecrow because it's a Link monster, right? You're a Synchro deck. And Wakashi to 1 does kind of hurt, I admit, but yeah, so you don't actually, you basically use the Wakashi and you use the Super Heavy Samurai monsters and the scales, you use them as synchro material, and you use them as level 4 monsters, because when you're playing a Synchron deck, you don't actually want to make the what's it called, the Scarecrow, because that actually just takes up your zones, and it also turns out your Junk Speeder. Because Junk Speeder, you have to have not special summon from the X deck besides Synchro monsters for the turn you activate this, so you wouldn't use that anyway. So this is a deck where probably the best deck to actually utilize Super Heavy Samurai. Funnily enough, because you're literally not hurt at all by not having access to the Link 1. Because you're just going Junk Speeder anyways, and you're using these as level 4 monsters, which pair very well with your engine, is like your Jet Synchrons. Now, you might be wondering, this is like 20 spell and traps in here. How the what happens when you draw your Super Heavy Samurai cards with your spell cards? Well, first of all, you don't have to activate any of these spells first. If you open Super Heavy Samurai, you'd lead with that first. I mean, obviously that's to be expected. But also, Snow banishes cards from your grave, right? So theoretically, if you have access to Snow, you can just snow away any and all spell and traps in your grave, so that your Super Heavy Samurai cards are always live. And yeah, that's fucking Snow, right? Who would have thought Snow would be able to help with some kind of degenerate strategy? Yeah, this is they're also playing adventure cards, even though Griffin Rider is banned. Griffin Rider would have been really nice because you see we're running Heartbeast Featherstorm because we're triple thrust. Triple thrust helps you get your engine going second. You know, gas through your opponent's board. You don't have to play against Tenpai, so you're just you're just using your engine to push through mostly. And normally, to make Heartbeast Featherstorm live, you can make Cyber / Heartbeat Lady very easily. And you know, it's just a level 8 synchro. So if your opponent dares hand trap you, you thrust for Featherstorm going first. You make this, and then your opponent can't play the game. So that's neat. But I'm just saying, if Griffin Rider was legal, Griffin Rider is a win-win beast. It's a winged beast. So imagine you could make fucking Heartbeast Featherstorm live off of a Griffin Rider. Yeah, this is if you're interested at all, try playing this deck full power in ranked. It's a man. It is definitely a feeling. But yeah, we have to do with a legal knight. I'm not even sure legal knight is honestly necessary. I think it's fine because you're probably using this as synchro material anyways. You're not really keeping this on board. And obviously the adventure stuff is very good because adventure just gives you a free level 4 monster. Again, the name of the game is making level 4 monsters. Level 4 non-tuners to pair with your synchro monsters. So you have like your Stardust Synchron, which then gets you into your Stardust engine, and your Excel Stardust Synchro, which again, this works very well with the Super Heavy Samurai motorbike, as you know, the age-old combo. And Praying Mantis, the funniest card they ever printed. Praying Mantis, bro, this is like the best flavor in a card I've ever seen. But basically, if this is in your graveyard, you can just banish it and special summon 1 Baby Mantis token. That's a level 1. But once return that monster, you can only special. Or you can special summon 1 Baby Mantis token. Yeah, level 1 Baby Mantis token. You get this into you make this when you make a level 8 synchro. You make Diabolantis. Diabolantis sends the Praying Mantis to the grave, and then Mantis can banish itself, summon a token, and then Diabolantis can treat the token as a tuner, and then you have a level 1 tuner on board. So then, obviously, you know what this deck does with level 1 tuners is pretty nice. You can also go into Ravenous Crocodile Dragon to try and dig for more cards, and eventually this deck can end on combinations of Baron de Fleur plus Omega Dispatter, so you hand loop 2, and then you can like Trish left for hand looping a 3rd one if you want. As I mentioned, the Thrust for the Cyber Slash for the super broken Floodgate, which for some reason is not banned because I guess they thought not having Flu Legal was enough to make this not much of a problem, which I understand the logic, but yeah, and then along the way you're drawing like multiple cards off Hyper Librarian. Not as big of a deal in this deck because you don't really run that many hand traps in this build, so it's like the draws off Hyper Librarian aren't that great unless you draw extenders. But yeah, Excel Synchron Jet Warrior. Jet Warrior is for the Synchro Overtake, where you have to reveal a Jet Warrior in your extra deck. That way you get to special summon Jet Synchron directly from your deck. So that's neat. And yeah, this deck trust me, if you own the cards for this for some reason but haven't played this yet, go ahead and play this deck. You will be amazed at like how well this deck flows together and at the synergy of this deck. But yeah, this is a deck that I really want to build sometime in the future. Obviously, I'm still quite a few UR short, unfortunately. But yeah, this deck's really cool, and especially in like a lower power environment with no maxi legal, you don't have to play against Tenpai, even though I think Tenpai would be a pretty decent matchup because this is the deck that's really strong going first. Yeah, this deck is really fucking strong, and it's really interesting, in my opinion, cool as well. So next we have Tearlaments Strongest. And you know, anytime there's a fusion event and Tear is like somewhat playable, you're gonna expect to see a lot of this deck. And in my opinion, this deck is way more than just somewhat playable this event. And I know by looking at the hits, you might think Rhino Heart to 1. That's kind of harsh, isn't it? Well, I mean it is, but then you realize that you're locked into fusions anyways. So then a card called Fusion Deployment exists, where you review a fusion monster in your X deck and special summon a monster mentioned on that fusion monster. So Tearlaments Kaleido Heart mentions Rhino Heart. So this essentially gives you 3 E-Tellies for Rhino Heart, and there's no downside because you're not allowed to play links anyways. You're only allowed to play fusions. So yeah, you essentially still have 4 copies of Rhino Heart. So literally, you didn't lose any consistency at all, besides like the Pro Rhino ban. But like that's independent of the event ban list. And then yeah, you can play pure Tear. There's literally enough playable cards to play pure Tear. You have 3 Seamare as well. The Chavis and the Sharon are still here. The Shufflers are still here. The Tear Cash is still here. The Shadal Beast and Snow are still here. Fucking Snow. Every time I see this card in a deck list, I'm like, why are you still here? Yeah, you have more copies of Rhino Heart if you want. Foolish Burial Goods. I know the Purple Rhino is banned, so Trivia Karma isn't as great, but it still gets you Grief or Scream, which is still fine. And in some matches, it gets you Heartbeat as well. And yeah, the Triple Grief, this might be a bit much, but lets you play through hand traps, basically. Besides a Bystial, it even lets you play through a Bystial sometimes, but obviously getting Bystial on like your name is not that great, because then you're ending on a kit that has less attack than the Bystial on War, so sometimes it doesn't feel great, but I mean it's better than nothing. Obviously the Scream, then the Super Poly and Droplets. So Super Poly, they hit the 1, and this was a good move because last event, the last Dual Triangle where Super Poly was at 3 was the most aggravating piece of shit like you ever played, because Fusion decks were just Super Polying the crap out of Xyz and Link decks the entire time, and there's nothing they could do about it, so that was kind of annoying. So yeah, putting this to 1 was the correct move. And then you know, the standard Tearlaments spell traps Heartbeat, Meta Noise, Tribute Karma, Crime, Solyak. So here's one of the texts I'm playing is the Black Goat Labs. So you have to be able to beat Tenpai when you're playing these Fusion and Link decks, okay? So this goes a long way to helping you beat the Tenpai matchups, because this is good whether you draw this or whether you mill this or whether you discard this. And yeah, set this, declare Chandra, sort of can be difficult for them to OTK you. Now, if they start with if they normal summon Chandra, obviously this doesn't work, then you have to call something else. But if they start with anything else, you call Chandra, and then you know it's pretty hard for them to establish anything against you at that point, especially if you have actual interruption on your board. Also, if it's in the grave, then you can still use it as an interruption, although it's a bit harder to tell what you have to call in grave. It's probably going to be based on what they open with and like honestly their hand as well, so it's not going to stop them by themselves, but you should have more than just the Black allows, and this is a nice bonus interruption. And Ash, I'm not like convinced that Ash is really that impactful, to be honest, especially if it's your only hand trap. Especially if you're not playing against Fusion decks yourself, because you don't have like a brand fusion to Ash, you don't have like a huge choke point. So you can maybe cut this for more gas or better mills, which I understand. There's also no Synchro, so like being the level 2 tuner to pair with Tear Cash doesn't really matter either. And yeah, I'm running a single Albaz because sometimes you already have access to your Rhino Heart, and then if you do, you can use a Fusion Deployment as a board breaker with Fallen of Albaz. And That's why you see the extra. I'm running all of the main Albast fusions too, like Albion, Mirror Jade, obviously, Lubellion, Rinbrum, Sanctifier, Alba, Lena Tussie. You'll see it later. Maybe you'll see a bit later on why you might want the Lena Tussie, but yeah, and then a bunch of super, the 3 main tier fusions in the extra, a bunch of Super Poly targets. Even though Super Poly is at 1, like, I mean, what else are you gonna put in your extra deck, right? So you have Mudragon, Garura, Earth Golem, Adagnister, the Stragosopelia, and World Child's Guard Dragon, Almardu. Link decks, BTFO, bro. 3 Link monsters, eat it. And Winda, obviously, because you run the Shaddoll Beast, and it's very funny when Tenpai tries to board wipe you, and then you end up on a Winda, and they're like, "Oh shit, I can't out this." So yeah, between Winda, Black Go Lavs, potentially a Winda. I mean, obviously Winda isn't guaranteed because you're only running the 1 Shaddoll Beast. Maybe you could argue that. Like, you could argue you could run more Shaddoll names, like another Shaddoll Beast or a Hell Shaddoll Hollow, just to make Winda easier, which I can see that too. I can see as an argument. Maybe we'll actually do that and cut like what are we cutting? An Ash. Feels weird to say cut an Ash, but yeah, you can do that just to make your Winda more consistent, because Winda is pretty decent if the Tenpai matchup doesn't draw droplets. But yeah, I mean, this is just like a very slightly modified 40 card tier. Plays largely similar to the normal tier. It just, you don't make any XCs or links after your play. You just end on a bunch of fusions and a bunch of mills, but it's still fine. Just Bystials hurt slightly more, but what can you do, right? All right, so this I'm not as confident about as I am with tier, because as you can see, there's quite a few hits on this deck. One is Alibur going to 1, so even more consistent loss. Yeah, I think you have to run something like 3 Keeper of Dragon Magic now to maintain the consistency. Alabast going to 1 is just massive for your grind game. Now you only have 1 if this gets Bystialed. It's so bad, but even if it doesn't, I mean, you only have 1 Albast in rotation. You also only have 1 Albion, which is like, it's already kind of iffy and makes your brand height, like, basically after turn 1 you have no more Albions, which is kind of bad. But then the main thing is, like, here, let me show you. This is the biggest problem. Forbidden. Okay. Branded Retribution. This card's banned. This is so important for the deck. First of all, consistency. Obviously dumping of Cartasia, Sarnier, and Albion. This is your second most common way to actually get the branded fusion besides hard searching it with one of your searchers, and it's gone. This is also a good disruption. It's literally Solid Morning, and it recycles your Albast fusions, which is very important when you only have 1 of them, such as Albion, and can't do that. So that's actually such a big Retribution Man is such a big deal. It's like, honestly, it makes me kind of iffy on whether it's even worth playing this deck, to be honest. Because especially since people are going to be loading up on Bystials against you, and Bystials, when you only have 1 Albast available in your deck, is that's risky. That is so risky. It's why I'm also playing Branded Sword in the main, because this at least lets you recur resources and recurs your 1-off Albast if everything ever happened to it. I mean, yeah, this is a 40 card brand list. I don't think, I mean, there's not even any grass. Like, I don't think there's a way to justify going above 40, too much above 40 in this event with this deck list, especially considering the limits to it and the consistency and all of that stuff. That being said, we did get Gold Sark to 2. I have not gotten around to craft this yet, but you definitely do want to run 2 Gold Sark in this list, because it's banish Tragedy or banish Recur. It's consistency. So yeah, you want that. So I mean, like the monster lineup is so sad. 1 Albast, 1 Alibur, 1 Mercurier, 1 Kit, 1 Cartasia, 1 Quem, 1 Sarnier, 1 Albion, 1 Lubellion. The reason we're only on 1 Cartasia and 1 Albion, when sometimes you would consider running more, but without Retribution, really, I mean, that's honestly, they were the best. These were like best ways to use Retribution, and Retribution was the best thing to send of Albion, and you know, now we don't have that anymore. Oh yeah, the Foolish, Gold Sock, these are more starters. Fusion Deployment, still nice. Branded in white, Branded Fusion. Thrust, so it lets you beat Ash going first. It also lets you search Board Breakers going second and search Engine going second. Triple Droplet and the one Super Poly. I guess since they limited Albion, we do have room for a couple Super Poly targets still, so like it's worth running this still. The one Branded Lost, Anti-Ash Blossom. Don't know if these are worth it, to be honest, just for Ash Blossom. But I mean, if you have a Royal Rare Ash Blossom, run it for the cross-out because you just have to. Triple High Spirits. 3 might be too much since we cut down the Albion. In fact, 3 is definitely probably too much. But yeah, you use Keeper Dragon Magic as well, but there's just not many High Spirits right allowed. You might honestly cut the High Spirits down as well. And this is at 1, this is a 1-up, this is a these are 1-ups, this is the Search off of Thrust. And the extra deck, I mean, these are all standard: Chimera, Sanctifier, Rinbrum, Grand, Lubellion, Double Mirror Jade, Quiritis as the summon off of Granguignol, Sprint, since you know you gotta replace the Albion with something, Titaniclad to get the Quem out, Borderlord Furious Dragon, Predavance, Drago Stapelia, and then 2 Super Poly targets. So yeah, branded. Honestly, not looking too hot in my opinion, but this might just see enough play anyways, just because branded. There's a lot of branded players out there still. Alright, now this next deck is for a very particular group of psychos that happen to own full power Dinomorphias, such as myself. Because, I mean, frankly, look at all the fucking URs. If you own all of this shit, you deserve to play this deck for this event. And, yeah, this is a very good pick, if and only if that this absolutely destroys Tenpai, the Tenpai matchup. Like, I mean, that's it, bro. They have to draw... Basically, their only way to actually beat you and get past Rex Term is with a bunch of board breakers, like what's it called, Duster, Red Reboot, Heavy Storm, Lightning Storm, all that stuff, and you run your own to count. You run your own anti-board breaker cards to counter. You have 3 Solemn Judgment, 3 Iron Thunder, and then 1 Sonic, which is basically a searchable spell and trap Solemn Judgments, a spell and trap negate, so like a searchable Dark Bribe that your opponent doesn't draw from. So even though, I mean, you will get blown out by board breakers playing this deck sometimes, because, I mean, that's just how luck works, but, I mean, the odds are in your favor, let's say that. And, yeah, this is, I mean, if you play Dinomorphia, you should probably already know what all of these cards do, and if you don't own Dinomorphia, I highly doubt you're going to craft this deck for this event, but, you know, just in case, if people are interested, you know, you run 3 Pharesia, this sets any Dinomorphia trap from your deck, so it could be any of these. The options are Frenzy and Domain. These are basically your ways to get to your Rex Term. You use either of these, you make Kentrigina, then Kentrigina copies the Domain or the Frenzy from your grave, and then if you fusion again, so then you pay down to like 2k, and then you make a Rex Term, and then if you used any other spell that paid life points, such as Solemn, Iron Thunder, or Solemn Drag, you'd be even lower, and at that point, you should be at a point where your opponent won't be able to activate monster effects on field. Because yeah, Rex Term is a very fair card. Skill Drain is fun, although this is more akin to VFD in that your opponent can't even activate it if their attack points are higher than your life points. So yeah, and then Diplos. Honestly, this card's pretty bad. You have to run this because you need this as fusion material, but you fusion from deck. So you don't want to see this in hand, you want to fuse from deck. That's why you only run 2. It's not a starter. Only a starter with a very specific combination of cards that you don't want to run more than 1 copy of because they're not that great. So yeah, the alert is it's not accurate to call this a soul charge, but you do special summon up to 2 Dinomorphic monsters from grave, or you could just special summon 1 fusion back. It's like recursion. It's searchable off of Pharesia, which Pharesia can also, anytime one of your Dinomorphia monsters gets popped, they float into another Dinomorphia monster of a lower or equal level. So, you know, Rex Term or Kentrigina somehow get popped, you can special summon a Pharesia back, and then Pharesia will trigger and then set another trap from deck. So, yeah, punish your opponent for not reading your cards and just trying to run over your monsters for no reason. Triple Fossil Day consistency, the other pots are banned. 1 Super Poly because it's the 40th card, why not, right? Like, help with going second. Anti-Ash Blossom, Flames completely busted. If you play the game at all and your life points are low, this basically is just another board wipe that shuffles everything to deck. So yeah, that's broken. You might consider running Trap Trick. Actually, that's a card I forgot. Yeah, maybe we run Trap. This Wave Bridge sucks. Okay, Wave Bridge, don't play that card. Maybe we run a Trap Trick instead. That card's legal, right? Yeah, Trap Trick, and over the Super Poly if you want. Yeah, you could also run this over a second Flames just for consistency as well, because you definitely do need to see one of your starters to play the game. Obviously, that's fucking you. Of course, you need to see a starter to play the game. What the fuck am I saying? But yeah, we lost 2 pots. Well, you lost 1 pot, so I guess to make up for a pot of prosperity, you play the Trap Tricks for consistency. It's fine. Yeah. Domain. This summons from this fuses using cards from your extra deck and deck. This Frenzy uses monsters from deck. Domain, I believe, has to use fusion from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as material. And then Dinomorphia Frenzy is great because it also uses monsters from your extra deck, so you can just send Spellfurger for free. And yeah, generally Frenzy is the better one out of it and Domain, but I mean, you have either one, you're probably fine. Root is just like a prop. You destroy a Dinomorphia monster, pop a card, triggers the Dinomorphia monster effect of summon back after it pops. Solemn, also anti-Ash. This is Intact is ridiculous. This also, anytime you activate Intact, it means your opponent, you also just win the matchup against Tenpai, because Intact, when you activate this effect, whenever you take battle damage for the rest of this turn, the battle damage you take becomes half your life points. So you will never die from battle damage, which means even if your Tenpai player attacks you directly and gets SD'd or battle phase stuff, they will never kill you the turn you resolve Intact. So yeah, this is another reason why the matchup is in your favor. Then Iron Thunder, just Solemn 2. You know, if Solemn is so great, why isn't there Solemn 2? Well, here it is. And then the extra tech, just 3 Ket 3. These are the only Dinomorphias fusion monsters. So with the other 6 slots, you just put in random Super Poly targets like Mud Dragon, Garura, Earth Golem, Almarduke, Panzer Dragon, Machine plus Dragon Monster. So this hits Crimson Dragon plus Legacia, I guess, or like Legacia plus a random Bystial. So like that's it. This can come against Centur-Ion is what I'm saying, and then Draco Quest, I don't think this will ever come up. Maybe your opponent is playing like super heavy and they have like Baron plus another plus like a Stardust for some reason, or like a Crimson Dragon, then I can see it maybe. But yeah, this I don't know. If there's a better super poly target, this, let me know. But yeah, Dino Morbid, baby. Alright, and now onto the Link decks, and of course you know we gotta play dragons. I mean, yeah, it does kind of hurt not having access to the synchros. So no Savage Dragon, no Bystial Dissipator, no Baron, no Chaos, none of that stuff. But I mean, you gotta play Dragon Link as a Link deck. Okay, you cannot play Dragon Link as a Synchro deck. Okay, you try playing Dragon Link without Striker Dragon. It doesn't work. So yeah, this is still very good. You would just simply 90% of the time you would just replace the Borreload Savage Dragon on your end board with an IP Masquerena, which will then threaten to make an SP. And in the very good hands, the very cracked hands, you might end on Seal, Borrelend, IP, and then SP as well, and then the IP can go into Unicorn to co-link with the SP and then draw a card and spin a card. So then you obviously have to regain on field. So yeah, this deck still makes very good end boards even without fusion, even without synchro monsters. Now you don't have any Omni Negates, so I don't know if anyone is playing evenly. You might be a little boned there, but I mean, yeah, you gotta worry about the Tenpai players playing evenly in this event. Am I right? Yeah, I mean, the end boards are, again, they're interaction-wise, that's still quite a lot of interactions. And honestly, this deck not having to worry about Max C, best fucking deal in the entire world. And you can even run this as a 40 card deck, because now you don't have to run the fucking Max E pack. You don't have to run double Colored Blight plus Crossout, which are normally cards that you don't really normally want to run in Dragons, because this deck is very good at playing through hand traps already. But just because the existence of Max E requires you to run those cards. But now you can just run more extenders and run more engine cards instead to help play through your hand traps. So yeah, you have 3 Black Metal, 3 Seyferts, 3 Lubellion, 1 of each Baby Dragon, the 4 Bystials. Again, I'm not going overboard on Bystials for this, for the Link side, because they're okay. So Bystials are very good against fusion decks. However, Bystials are really bad against Synchro decks. Like against Tenpai, against Centur-Ion, these cards are not the hand traps you want to see. So this is why I'm only running like 1 of each. And you could argue that Baldrake isn't even necessary, but you know, it is another free interruption when you access your Bystial engine. So yeah, and then the Red Eyes Meteor Black Dragon for the Black Metal, and we're running Gamma obviously, because you gotta run Gamma when you run the Meteor Dragon, and then the Red Eyes for that, and then 3 triple Chaos Space. Gotta love to see it. Next ban list, Quick Launch going back to 3 as well, but right now we're running the 2 that were allowed. Then 1 of each field spell, the Regain, and then triple Tactics Talon. You could, this is a 40th card, you could just run the Branded Beast instead. Honestly, probably Branded Beast is honestly probably better, to be honest, than the Tactics. So yeah, putting a Branded Beast here. Where is it? Yeah, clean 40. I know 40 isn't necessarily the most optimal in Dragon Link, especially when there's no Max E in the event. Then it's like you don't really have to care about drawing your Max E outs, and then you know there are a few bricks in here that you don't want to draw, like your field spells and Levy and such, that you know maybe you want to run more than 40 to dilute your bricks, which I totally understand. If you want to, just run more hand traps or run more Bystials in that case if you want to play over 40. That's perfectly acceptable. And then the Rocket Engine 2 Tracer 1 Rechargers. So honestly, you don't need the second Tracer target. Obviously, you can run, if you do want to run a second Tracer target, run the Caliber, because this is a free extender if you draw it, if you control Dark Link monster, which you most likely will. But yeah, you don't need to run the second Tracer target, in all honesty. It just, if you do run the second Tracer target, it makes drawing Recharge less of a brick, because then you can use the Recharge to normal summon it still and still have access to another Tracer to summon later in the turn. But yeah, it's fine. It's not necessary, especially since we don't have synchros. The Caliber being a level 4 Dark Tuner doesn't matter as much either. So yeah, and then did I go over Absolute Elder and Levy? Yeah, you run these, and that's the main deck. It looks simple and clean. And the rest you just run hand traps out of Ghost Ogre, because Tenpai is in the format, so this is nice. It's also light, you know, so it works with Chaos Space, and works with your Bystials, and works with all your Clap Serpent as well, which makes Clap Serpent less of a dead draw, especially when you're going second. Could argue that you don't need to run Ash, and that maybe you run Valor instead, or Nibiru. Okay, not Nibiru. Nibiru is so bad against both Synchro and Fusion. Don't run. I would not advise running Nibiru if you're in your Link decks, most likely. But maybe a Valor as like a light hand trap to pair with a Chaos monster. Although Ash is really nice, especially with Sangan Kaiman at 1. You know, hitting the Kaiman is pretty nice. Or hitting the Pydra, knowing Sangan something's at 1 is also pretty decent. And yeah, the extra deck. So 1 Pisty, obviously 3 Striker Dragon. This is to replace like the 3 or 4 synchros we ran before. I played the 3rd Striker Dragon, and I played Dill, just so you have access to the Dill line. Now, I don't know what the Dill basically just gets you. Any 2 dragons gets you Borderland plus IP now, which is a little awkward, because obviously they can just run over the IP by entering battle phase, so you kind of have to use Borderland to negate something to make the IP live, so that you can use the IP, but then you're using both interruptions, so it's a bit weird in that sense. It's a lot better if you have a Regain though, because then Regain gives you a free IP material, or if you just have another Bystial. I mean, that works too. And yeah, the triple Striker Dragon just means you don't have to worry about running out of Striker Dragons and recycling them, because you always have them, especially since you go through 2 when you go through Delinger's line, but you will always have the 3rd one in deck still, because we have the room. The Seal, I mean, sorry, the FTK, the Romulus, IP Master Arena, Dark should run this now because you're not have synchros. Yeah, there's against fusion decks, this is going to be live a lot, and then it gives you an arrow and it gives you a free material to help combo. Also lets you crash and then search Black Metal Dragon, so it gets you engine as well. SP, triple burst. The Nightmare Unicorn, since again sometimes you make a SP turn 1, so then you can still have Unicorn to go into as an IP target, and it's a link 3 that removes stuffs. I mean, it's not a bad card or anything. Boral Sword, I don't know what to run in this slot. Honestly, this could literally be anything. I don't think you'll ever make this, to be honest, because you don't need to, because you have Borderland Dragon, which already clears the board most of the time. And then if not, you have Axial Talker to clear the board, and both these are also OTK options, so a lot of time I don't really know when you go for Boral Sword, I'm gonna be honest, but I mean, it's there. And yeah, Dargans, this deck, in my opinion, gonna be one of the better Link decks. Okay, and now you're looking at the best fire deck of the format, just Salad. And the reason why is let's do some quick searches. Okay, actually no, this is a better way to show it. Okay, Forbidden, Snake Eye. Oh yeah, thinking. Fire King. Big Garunix is legal. The Garunix brick is legal, and everything else is banned. Okay. What about Rescue Ass? Yeah, Rescue Ace, more like Rescue Ass this event, right? So, yeah, by default, you know that means best 3 fire decks completely fucking banned in the Link event. So, that paves the way for Salamangreat. And granted, Salad does not take advantage of any of the Snake Eyes cards, so that's, you know, probably why this is still legal. But you know what else is still legal? We have Zealand for Promethean Princess. First of all, is still legal, so any deck that can use Promethean Princess is just huge, because this is one of the most fair cards ever printed, right? And of course, Zealantis is also available. Now this deck does Firelock itself, so you don't really do this all the time, but you do have Zealantis OTK still as an option. And the 2 cards you cut were Horse Prince and Mirage Salio, because, you know, Horse Prince is a Synchro and Mirage Salio is an Xyz. So I just put 2 Pyro Phoenix in instead, because, you know, like, what else am I gonna put in, right? But yeah, this deck, missing those 2 cards is honestly not that big of a deal. Like, I don't know if there's any other fire deck that's even somewhat legal, like maybe Infernoids, but Infernoids still relies on, in my opinion, I think Infernoids relies on their fusion. Nothing in Infernoid is hit, right? Infernoid, well, yeah, their TR is hit and their Evo is hit, so Evo is it's a pretty custom card for Infernoid, not gonna lie. I think this is more important to them than Mirage Salio is to Salad. Now, like, Mirage Salio is good, don't get me wrong, but you can play without it, especially since everything, if you max out on fire, or you don't even have to max out on fire, you can still like just run like 2 copies or something. All of these still get you to Gazelle anyways. So the biggest thing about Rosalio is that it keeps your Spinny engraved. So instead of now, Spinny is just gonna get banished every time. So that's why I also up the Spinny count to 3, just because you're gonna go through them 1 every turn most likely, and you don't want to run out of them. But yeah, and then Horse Prince is obviously, Horse Prince is the play to either search Ash Blossom or search Code of Soul, or a special Code of Soul, which again is part of a combo. Like, it is important, but you can deal with like not having that, especially since Code of Soul, if you have like multiple kinds of Code of Soul, you can also just run 3 Code of Soul anyways if you want to. Because of the lack of Horse Prince and Mirage Salio in the extra deck, you do have space to run Pyro Phoenix anyways. Like, even if you weren't running Code of Soul, I'd still play this if you have these, because this is just a board wipe going second, and which is fine. And it's like a board wipe you can do while being Firelocked, and you can do an entire OTK line while Firelocked, mind you, without needing to go through Zealandis too as well, if you play the Pyro Phoenix. So that's Uh, pretty neat. And you know, Raging Phoenix obviously might not need 3, but I mean, if you do have 3 and you are a Salad player, you know, might as well. It's not like extra deck space is that much of an issue. And another great thing about this event is that no Max C. So because there's no Max C, you don't really care. You don't need to spend space on like Call by the Grave or Crossout especially, because this deck plays through hand traps pretty decently, with the exception of Maxi and Nibiru. And Maxi's gone. Nibiru, it is what it is. I don't think it's worth playing one Nibiru for one Crossout, especially since Nibiru is so bad against every Synchro and Fusion deck. Like, what are you gonna Nibiru against Tenpai? Centur-Ion does not play into Nibiru the majority of time. And then the Fusion decks, like, if you ever Nibiru branded or tier, you're just helping them. Like, you're triggering their effects for them. Like, it's detrimental. So that's why I don't think it's worth to put in Nibiru just for a potential crossout slot for it to be played against you. But instead, you know, the hand traps are Valor, Imperm, Ghost Ogres for, you know, you're going to play a lot of Tenpai. And Crow, you're going to play... This card is very good against Fusion decks, namely Branded and Tier, and, you know, Ash Blossom. Even though you can't search this is still very good, because you can summon both add Ash Blossom back every turn, and you win every grind game with this deck. Especially, you also recur your Salad Traps and all that stuff, and also you play Soul Charge in your deck, too. You know, just to help with the grind even further. And the engine's like 3 Gazelle. I went over why 3 Spinny, and then before. Any number of Cold of Soul you can run. 3 Lady Debug is the best starter now, better than Flame Buffalo since it just adds directly. And also, Lady Debug also searches Cold of Soul if you need it. The 1 Weasel, 1 Jack Jaguar, 1 Foxy, 1 Mirror as a search target for when you're, like, if you're going second and your normal summon gets blown up. Just having Mirror in deck with any of these 5 searchers lets you still play through that and play into boards even after getting your normal summon nuked. And yeah, 1 Royal Sanctuary. I probably shouldn't be running a Royal Sanctuary because the fact that this is Royal means I'm just gonna fucking draw this every single game. It just increases the chance of you seeing it. Yeah, the Will, the 3 Circle, the Rage, the Roar, the I think that's all for the main deck. I mean, the main deck is pretty standard, honestly. There's the Mailmine stuff with, like, Sprint, but because there's no Horse Prince, it's... I mean, that you're not really going through many of those boards anymore. Like, you can still play Mailmine, like, cut a Salamangreat Fire, but also since I'm Firelocking myself more, this also makes the Mailmine... Nah, it's fine. Actually, no, I'm dumb. You can play Mailmine plus Sprint, too. These combos where because if you go Soul Charge for Will of the Salamangreat Soul Charge for 3 or 4, you kind of like don't have much to do with the extra body, especially if you're Firelocked. So if you want to, you can run Sprint just to put 2 random fires like Salamangreat Fire plus any other one of the 4 monsters you Soul Charge back to make a Sprint. Sprint will dump the Mailmine, and then Mailmine is like an extra interruption, sort of like it bounces a card when if a Link 2 monster is sent to the grave or banished, then this bounces another card, so it's another layer of interruption. Might be helpful if you can't get the Cold of Soul, because, you know, there's no Horse Prince, but yeah, the extra deck, since you have the room now, you can run 3 Baylings, 3 Raging Phoenix, the Wicked for the Lady Debug lines, 2 Sonic Wolf, Kita, SP, Princess, double Pyro Phoenix. You need, if you're running Pyro Phoenix at all, you need 2 of this. Even if you don't run Cold of Soul to make Pyro Phoenix on your opponent's turn, you still want 2 of this so that you can co-link this on your turn, and then when you do, it's a field wipe. And also, you can combine this with cards like Weasel to inflict damage to your opponent too. Like, you go Weasel, Chainlink, you go Pyro Phoenix, Nuke, Chainlink 1, and you can target one of your inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack. Yeah, so you go Nuke, Chainlink 1, and Pyro Phoenix is the second effect, Chainlink 2, so you deal damage to them and you nuke the field. It makes OTKing very easy, even without needing Zealantis. Speaking of which, you do run as well, and yeah, this deck's gonna be great this event. Alright, this could be a little copium, but this might be the time for Unchained to shine in Master Duel. this event specifically, Maxi is banned. The other deck that abuses the Unchained engine and overshadows this deck is effectively banned because, you know, Phantom of Yubel. Where's that Phantom of Yubel? Oh, that's right, it's not here. Okay, so cool. Okay, no Phantom of Yubel. You know, if you're gonna make Unchained boards, why not just play actual Unchained, right? And I mean, yeah, everyone knows that the scariest part of the Yubel end board, after all, is literally just the Unchained Soul of Rage plus the Escape, threatening to link off your opponent's monster into SP Little Knight. So, yeah, this is just back to pure Unchained, quote unquote pure. I know there's tour guides, but again, there's no maxi punish, so tour guide, you know, isn't that really that bad. You could get Imperm or Veilord, except no, you. That's a risk your opponent has to take because you have 3 Unchained Soul of Shavara, unlike the one that you run in Yubel, so this helps you dodge hand traps like that on your tour guide. If they Imperm or Veilord your tour guide and you have Shavara in hand, you literally win the game on the spot. There's another neat things, you know, like the Heavy Storm is legal now, which is actually pretty cool because Heavy Storm is consistency. You can use this as engine to pop your own Unchained traps. You know, pop your Chambers, pop your Escapes, pop your Prison, pop your Wailing. I'm not sure this is necessary, you could probably cut this, but Heavy Storm into any of these gets you Unchained combo. It's literally summons an Unchained from deck. And you can makes Thrust very good, because now Thrust is effectively well, I mean, Thrust can search for multiple forms of engine, but it can also search for Heavy Storm, which wipes your opponent's back room, plus extends your own play. So like Heavy Storm is kind of crazy in this deck. This might be the one deck that abuses Heavy Storm the best. Either this or Tear, arguably. And yeah, obviously, and the other funny thing of Thrust is, well, we know what deck is legal in this that you're gonna have to play against. So if you're playing triple Thrust, why not? Am I right? If you get this off and your opponent doesn't red reboot you, I mean, how are they gonna win? You're just gonna kill them on the next turn. And it's not like this deck is helpless against Tenpai anyways. Like if you do your combo, they have one Sang and something, so you can easily just pop with Escape. And once the Sang and something is gone, then their monsters are extremely vulnerable to Unchained Soul of Rage. If the Unchained Soul of Rage resolves on their field into SP, you win the game. There's no comeback for them, especially with only one Kaiman as well. And it's very again, this deck sets up a lot of pops very easily. It's very easy to set up at least one pop for the single Sang and something that they have. Also, you have, because you know there's no Exceed, so you're not going to Caesar lines or anything like that, you can go to Nightmare Griffin line instead and just flank your opponent out that way too, which is probably pretty good against the fusion decks. And yeah, for the ratios, I mean, I think Aruha is a 3-up, and then these can be run at 1 for space, and then 3 Shavara, 1 Shayama. Not sure how, because there's no Unchained, like there's no Unchained. It's a fucking DD card. It's not an Unchained card, but it might as well be a fucking Unchained card. The Caesar rank 6, there's no Caesar, so maybe not as important. 1 Abominable Soul. I'm still running the Dark Contract of the Dark Contract with the Gates plus Vice King Requiem package. This might not be necessary because there's no Exceed, so you can't go into the Machinex and then you can't threaten Zeus without doing anything, which is a big deal, but also this is just a good card by itself. Very good going second. It pops any card as well, so you can still use this as, and then maybe you could play without this and just run more non-engine as well. Likewise, you could probably cut the Wailing. This is just a one-of, kind of win more. And then like the triple Infirm, triple Ogres, the best hand trap versus Tenpai, which is probably going to be an Real's common matchup. Although admittedly, this is very bad against the fusion decks. So maybe if you want to be like more in the middle, maybe play something like a Valor or like a Droll. Not Droll. Droll is also terrible versus the fusion decks. But yeah, maybe play another Thrust target or play a couple more talents to make your going first better. Triple Ash, double Chamber, double Escape of the Unchained. I think the ratio is that you need 2 of each of these to play pure Unchained, because you're usually gonna pop one and then you want to set one later as well. So it's really nice. And then the extra deck, because there's no Xyz, there's a bit more space. You know, you got Phoenix, double Soul Rage, Muckcracker, Yama, 2 Yamas. You can go to 3 if you have the 3rd Yama. It's probably better. 2 SP, probably don't need the 2nd SP, but I own the 2nd SP, but I don't own the 3rd Yama, so there you go. Unicorn, Anguish, Griffin, Appaloosa. Probably never ever go into this, but I mean, it's not like this. You're actually like very tight in this event. The Unchained Abomination, the access code, again, you're kind of fiend-locked a lot of times, so this probably doesn't come up that often, but it can. And Underworld Goddess. The white woman is in fact a fiend, if you didn't know, so that's why this is here. So yeah, relish the 2 weeks you have in this event playing Unchained without Maxi. Oh my god, that was a lot of decks I just covered. I think I covered like 3 decks per group, so that was like 9 decks total. Jesus Christ. And that's just scratching the surface. I'm sure there are more decks that I missed, so please let me know in the comments about the decks you're planning to play that I didn't mention here. And obviously, if you own these decks, it's great, but if you don't own these decks, some of them might be a bit costly, so I will be looking into budget options as well. Don't worry about that. That will probably be in the next video. But yeah, stay tuned until then, and hope you have fun in the event. Maybe that's asking a bit much considering some of the decks that are legal, but I mean, I hope you at least get all the gems and without too much trouble.